Sometimes I wish I could be a conservative political consultant, not because I want to be one, but because there's so much money to be made if somebody good wanted to come along and just upend the whole political landscape when it comes to conservatives and conservative power over and over again, election after election, year after year. It's the same thing over and over and over again. And I want to talk to you about that today. And I have a top 10 list of ways that conservatives can shift things on local elections. So this is my free advice, if you will. If you would like to donate to Santa Barbara Talks, visit santabarbaratalks.com, hit subscribe on YouTube, support my podcast. But I want to talk to you today about what's wrong with conservatives. And I know people get it all twisted. People are all confused. Like, is he liberal? Is he conservative? He goes back and forth. Well, it's kind of the way it should be. I'm a journalist. You should never quite really know what I'm thinking on the inside. And there's a lot to say about the Democratic structure in town, the Democratic Party. And, I have talked about that, and we'll get to that in a future podcast. But I want to talk to you about conservatives because we're just coming off this election. The election is certified. And once again, what did we see? We saw so much hype, so much drama, so much buildup. And at the end of the day, the results are fairly predictable. Okay. So I want to talk about what conservatives need to do because bottom line, if you don't want to watch the number one, conservatives need to change everything they do locally and put a fresh face on how they approach politics because the old guard that is running conservative politics in Santa Barbara, South Coast primarily, also Santa Barbara County, they're just going to keep failing year after year after year if you don't make some kind of a change. So let's talk about that. Okay, number 10, where is your Charlie Kirk? Now, for people who don't know who that is, or sorry if it's blasphemous to mention a young conservative who goes around to college campuses and debates college students in a very imbalanced debate format. But the point is that there are young conservatives, presumably at UCSB. We have this big university here. We have Santa Barbara City College. Presumably, there are young conservatives who would want to join the fight and join the battle and be out there and open and talking about issues that matter to not only Reagan Republicans, but to this young next generation of conservatives. And we know they exist if we look at obviously the national scale. If we look at the Joe Rogan podcast culture, there's a lot of young conservatives out there. So you all need to find them and give them a voice and give them a platform so that they can start being change makers and influential. If you are young in this town and you're interested in conservative politics, where are you going to go? Where are you going to turn to? Like, who do you, the Santa Barbara County Republican Party Central Committee? Like, that's not going to be anything that gets people too excited. No disrespect to them, but it's not youthful. Okay. So number 10, you need to find your Charlie Kirk. You need to find your local sort of person who is going to be your flag bearer and somebody who's going to shift the conversation and make it about something other than just what we've been talking about forever in this town. We need a new focus and a new voice. Okay. Along those lines, you all need to pick better candidates. Where is Andrew Firestone? I've been saying this before. I mean, Andrew Firestone seems like the prototype conservative candidate to run for office because he's not an extremist and he has mainstream appeal and Democrats love him and obviously conservatives love him and he's exactly the face of somebody who you would want to talk to and somebody who will listen to you and doesn't make it about these extreme ideologies. And so you need to find those candidates. You need to find him. If you want to build conservative power, you need to talk to him or somebody like that. And, maybe he doesn't want to run, got a young family, got more important things to do. But that's where the face of the Republican Party needs to be much closer to, okay? And so you need to talk to him and think about what's going on in the future. And if it's not him, Find somebody like him because Republicans are just going to fail if they keep picking terrible candidates. And we'll get to that in a second. Well, actually, we'll get to that right now. Number eight. No disrespect to the people running for Santa Barbara County Office of Education, Santa Barbara School Board, um, city councils throughout the county. Uh, we need better candidates, okay? We need candidates who are willing to be known in the community to a broader audience other than their own silos every day, all year. You don't win elections by running for office every 4 years. You win elections by slowly building power, being involved in the community, and then when the election comes, having a base, a path to run on. But you can't just do it because you want to do it, okay? You have to have laid the foundation. And so when I talk about candidates not being poised to win in November on the conservative side, it's because for the most part, unless you're already in that camp, you haven't really heard of these candidates. And so then what does it become? It becomes a battle about money. It becomes advertising. It becomes marketing. And as we know, conservatives are not the best at running campaigns, at least local campaigns. And so you're at a disadvantage when you do that. So you need to find a larger pool of conservative candidates who you can start cultivating, who can be in these positions. Because if you're just recycling the same candidates for different boards around town, that's not going to work. It's lazy, and I don't mean that in a mean way. Like, politics is a real game. It is not for amateurs. Amateurs lose because they have great ideas up here, but they don't know how to do the work on the ground. And so you need to start finding better candidates, people who are willing to put in the work at the front end and work year round and be willing to leave it all out there during a campaign and not just expect to win because the people in your head tell you you are going to win. Okay. So, along those lines, number seven, you have to talk to people outside of Republican circles. It's great. Okay. They like you, they support you. You all understand the world in a way that no one else does. Okay. Well, what's going on with California? What's going on with Santa Barbara County? You all believe you have sort of this shared understanding of the way the world works, and all these liberals are ruining the country. Okay. Fine. But you can't just run on that. This is Santa Barbara. You had a Democratic registration disadvantage. You can't do those middle America Trump talking points and expect that to be successful for you here in Santa Barbara. It just will not work. You need to go out and meet people in the middle. You need to talk to people on the left, in the middle, understand what they care about, and figure out those points that are not divisive and spend most of your time there. Because if you don't do that, then you will just be seen as an extremist, someone who's marginalized, someone who's out of touch with the community. Okay. So if you're thinking about running, the worst possible thing, if you're thinking about getting reelected, the worst possible thing you can do is only talk to those people who are telling you what you want to hear in your head, feeding your ego, because they are using you for their own political agenda. You can't do that, right? You need to say, I get your point, but I'm going to have to compromise because I need votes from people who are not you, who are not registered Republicans or no party preference. I'm going to need support from these other people. So I'm going to have to talk to them. Okay. You're not compromising your soul by talking to liberal Democrats. You're trying to win. And in order to win, you need votes. It's simple math. Okay. So you have to get out of talking to your conservative kitchen cabinet people telling you how to win this thing, because if you haven't noticed, right, Democrats run the county and they run the cities for the most part, and so you have to appeal to those people. Okay, right, 10, 9, 8, 7, number six. You need to work hard. Okay, conservatives need to work hard, and I don't mean by checks, and I don't mean by signs. I don't mean by money. I mean working hard, as in during your elections you have to spend your weekends. You have to spend your evenings. You have to spend all of your free time sacrificing yourself in order to talk to voters. If it's a district election, so we're in district election era, right? So these things are not won by, nothing is big anymore. It's narrowed down to a specific area, geography, part of the county. That means every door you knock on is significant and it matters. And if you think that, oh, Barack Obama won with social media, okay, oh, somebody's telling me we'll just drop a bunch of social media ads. That is nonsense. No, okay. Obviously, social media, well done, professionally done, strategically done in big markets, works. No one has figured out how to do that in Santa Barbara. Okay. You aren't going to win elections by spending money all around the edges without talking to voters directly. That's how you're going to win. Okay. So you have to work hard. You have to say, I am not going to sleep in today, right? I'm not going to do this thing that's a personal enjoyment for the day. I'm going to go knock on doors today and I am going to go meet some people because those people might vote for me and every vote counts. Okay. If you're somebody who says, nobody wants literature on their door, nobody wants to be interrupted at 5 o'clock, nobody wants to be bothered by a politician. Okay. You've already lost. Forget about it. Don't even run. Okay. If you're not going to understand the rules of the game, don't even try to do it. You have to do those things because every interaction matters. Okay. So, along those lines, number 5, you can't just work during the elections. You have to work all year. Okay. It's nothing's more frustrating than seeing these candidates who pop up every 4 years to run for office, and in the middle, we don't hear anything about them. Voters aren't dumb, okay? Voters, well, actually, they're much nicer than the general media, okay? So the media, we know all these people, we have all our thoughts, our views. Most voters are willing to give you a shot if you explain yourself to them, if you take the time. But if they see you as being opportunistic, as somebody who just shows up once in a while when it's convenient, if you're jumping around from different boards in order to try to win a seat, people notice that. Okay. So you need to, if you want to be an elected official, you have to commit to it full time, right? Obviously, you have your job, you do everything else in life, your family, but you can't just be somebody who shows up at opportune times for you. You have to lay the groundwork and it matters. Okay. We mentioned Oscar Gutierrez. Okay. Lots of people have lots of opinions on Oscar Gutierrez. And, you know, none of those I'm going to say here. But the one thing I will say here is consistently, he's a nice guy who works hard. Okay. Because he lays the foundation all year, every day he's going to events. And that stuff matters, right? And so even if you don't necessarily like love somebody politically or agree with everything they say, or you want more from them, or you wish there was more intellectual discourse from them, if they're a nice guy who's shown up for you, that matters. Okay. So you have to value those soft skills, those little things. You cannot just say, I'm going to dump a whole bunch of money between August and October and expect to win. Because if you haven't put the work in ahead of time, you're just wasting money. Okay. All right. Number is this 4. I talked about this a little bit, but you have to meet in the middle. These national talking points that conservatives get all worked up on, that you see on the Daily Wire or these other conservative channels, just forget about all of those. Stop bringing those up. You will never be successful if you talk about social issues in Santa Barbara. If you start talking about, liberal ideology in the schools, just stop. Okay. It is not going to work for you, right? Because you're offending so many teachers. You're offending so many people who are actually in the classroom and who understand these things in a way that you don't. If it's a divisive issue, you're not going to have much luck by accusing the other side of being some sort of evil demon who wants to do horrible things to people in the world. That's never going to work. People don't respond to that. People respond to solutions. So you've got to meet them in the middle. Help me understand what it is that you want, and let's see if we can get there together. I think we disagree on some things, but where do we agree? And that's where you need to be. Because if you walk into a room and liberal Democrats, liberal voters are like, forget that person, I already know where they stand. That's bad. That's not a good thing. That's you're not winning when that happens. Okay. So you want to be able to meet people in the middle, soften your tone, which is why somebody like an Andrew Firestone, someone who's embedded in the community, they can do that. And that's what every conservative candidate needs to do. Okay. If you look at a couple of contests in Buellton, David Silva upset Dave King for Buellton mayor. How does that happen? Right? Traditionally a conservative city. How does that happen? Well, David Silva talked to a lot of people, and David Silva was out coming across as personable, likable, nice, and he put in the work. Okay. If you come across as somebody who's likable and nice, that kind of stuff matters. Okay. Okay. So number three, right? You got to change your talking points. Okay. This is tied to meeting people in the middle. If you want to build power, you have to start coming across as somebody who is not the other, not someone who's different, not someone who's extreme, not someone who's radical, not somebody who's hateful, not somebody who is a bigot, not somebody who's racist. Like, I'm not saying you are those things, okay? Absolutely not. Most of you are not that, okay? What I am saying is if there's a perception that you're that because you have some strong views on an issue, stop talking about those views if you want to get elected. In fact, take the libertarian perspective, which is let people decide for themselves. Okay. Let people have their own opinions and let's focus on the role of government. Let's focus on our policy issues. Because if you keep trying to shame people into telling them, their lifestyles are bad or the things they choose are bad, that is never going to work. No one wants to be told that. And it's not even a consensus that what you're saying is correct or true. And we can't even agree on what is moral, what is ethical in the first place. People have their own set of values. So you have to change your talking points and focus on the things we care about: housing, education, energy, okay? Things that thread all of our lives every day, not social issues, okay? Save that for your family, in your silos, at your kitchen table, on your long vacations, your car rides. It does not need to come out in the public eye if you are trying to win power, because you're going to lose more than you are going to gain. Okay. Number two, I call this change your attitude. Politics is hard. You have to work at it to be successful. So I want you to fast forward to what is this? This would be 2 years from now with the mayor's race, and 4 years from now with more district election races in the city of Santa Barbara. Of course, we got county board of supervisors. Okay, and other contests throughout the county. Politics is hard. Don't act like you know how to win a contest if you're a CEO or if you're a successful business person or you've got a bunch of degrees. All of that is fantastic, but it's an entirely different game. You cannot win if you don't know the game that you are playing. Okay. So you need to change your attitude and you need to think, I'm going to be the hardest working candidate ever in order to win this seat. If we look at District 1 in Santa Barbara, and you look at Wendy Santa Maria and Alejandro Gutierrez, okay? Lots of stuff there. I'm not going to go into all of that, but I will tell you that if somebody had worked, they didn't even have to work as hard as Wendy. They would have won. With incumbency, they would have won. With name value, they would have won. But if you're not willing to go toe to toe, step for step, campaigning with your opponent, you have nothing to complain about afterward. Wendy Santa Maria worked really, really hard, and that matters. That's a good, positive trait. And voters, when they see you over and over again, they start to respect you. even if they have concerns about your policy. They say things like, I don't agree with that person on everything, but I respect the passion they have for the position. And that's what matters. So you have to change your entire approach. So you need to find those young conservatives. You need to find those young conservatives on college campuses and get them out into the community and canvas and work and change your whole attitude. And it doesn't start in 2 years. It doesn't start in 4 years. It starts right now. If you want to be successful, you have to start establishing relationships, coalition building, building bridges, and being an active player in the community right now. Because if you just throw up a whole bunch of signs at the last minute, it doesn't work. Okay. Hard work wins every time. Okay. And then number one, new faces. All right. I'm no spring chicken. Okay. But I understand that, we need churn. We need turnover. We need new people to kind of keep the community vibrant and fresh. And when it comes to conservative power and conservative politics in this town, we need a whole new makeover of people to start being the face of whatever movement you're trying to create. The Republican Central Committee, right? Fine, great people doing what they're doing. They have a role in retirement and they want to make a difference. That's absolutely fine. They should have a role in the Central Committee, but you need those UCSB on conservatives out there as the face. Who do you think they're battling when they're going up against canvassing? Okay. They're battling young, liberal, progressive Democrats. Okay. There are liberal Democrat elders who do canvass and do get involved, but there's young people who are learning this stuff for the first time. They're being a part of this new generation of activism in Santa Barbara, and they have zero competition when it comes to young conservatives. So where are you? Number one, you need to find conservatives. You're not young, new faces who are going to come out and start saying, we are what conservative politics look like in this town. It cannot just be the people we've seen over and over and over and over again. And, you know, Roy Lee just got elected to first district supervisor. Now, I would never imply that Roy Lee is a Republican. He's not. He's a Democrat. But he won with a lot of Republican support, a lot of conservative support. Okay. And he's sort of the anomaly in all of this, in that you can have a candidate that you support win if you support that candidate in a way that is not this extreme, old fashioned, conservative, partisan, all out, in your face. This is the person of our party. What do you think would have happened if a Republican, registered Republican, ran against Doss Williams? Doss Williams would be getting sworn in for a third term in January. That's exactly what would have happened. But you can't do that. You can't, because people know are Republican. No chance, no way in that district. But if you have somebody like Roy Lee, who is not a Republican, but listens to Republicans, and he's got all this support behind the scenes, you can have success. You can have victory. Now, who knows? Maybe Roy will end up being a full-on Republican by the end of his term. Maybe not. Maybe the Republicans will get fed up with him and said, "Oh, you misled us." And then they'll realize, well, yeah, Roy needed you to beat Doss. Who knows what's going to happen there? But the point is, if you take a fresh attitude, a fresh approach, if you get new faces, and you get a whole new young wave of activists who are willing to knock on doors, who are willing to phone bank, who are willing to make calls, who are willing to get out there in the community and meet people and talk to people and not just do it from the comfort, the temperature controlled rooms of their big houses on the Mesa or the Montecito or wherever. Like, that's not going to win. That may those talks may bring you joy and cheer when Trump wins a upset election, right? But that's nationally, that's not here. If you want local power, you have to change everything that you do and usher in a whole new generation of young conservatives, diverse faces, people of color, women, all genders, being a spokesperson for your party. And if you don't embrace that locally, we will be sitting here in 2 years and 4 years and 6 years and 8 years, with same results. And conservatives will be blaming the media. And it's never the media's fault. It's always, media just covers this stuff. It's always the fault of those people who enter battle ill prepared and then blame other people for their lack of preparation. All right. Hit subscribe on YouTube. Visit SantaBarbaraTalks.com. Make a contribution. Have a great day. Thank you.